I'm Marvi Sirmed, and we will together unravel the truth behind the headlines. More than 100 student protesters were arrested last Thursday. The deliberate conflation of the criticism of Israeli government with anti-Semitism. As said earlier, we must absolutely condemn anti-Semitism and all forms of hate speech. Different social networking sites show people being arrested, forcefully nabbed, an officer arresting the chair of the Emory University's philosophy department. Pro-Palestinian campus protests have escalated across the United States. Good evening and welcome to New Wave Global. Tonight we'll talk about the recent protests at Columbia University, followed by arbitrary arrests of 100 students along with suspension and expulsion of 6 of them. I'm Marvi Sirmed, and we will together unravel the truth behind the headlines. Ivy-covered walls, hallowed halls, and a legacy steeped in intellectual rigor. That's the image Columbia University has cultivated. Yet recently, a different picture has emerged. Students chanting, tents on the lawn, and police cruisers lining the streets. More than 100 student protesters were arrested last Thursday on the campus of Columbia University after its president Nemeth Minosh Shafik authorized NYPD, New York Police Department, to clear the encampment set up by students demonstrating against Israel's attacks on Gaza. These students had encamped at the university as part of the BDS movement, boycott, divest, sanctions, to end international support for Israel's oppression of Palestinians and pressure Israel to comply with international law. In March, CUAD, Columbia University Apartheid Divest, which is a student-led coalition of more than 100 organizations, and the student workers at the Columbia University announced Columbia College Student Council's new resolution to boycott Israel supporting companies. They voted for a referendum concerning university divestment, which was next day joined by Women's Barnard College affiliated with Columbia University, School of General Studies, and the Columbia School of Social Work. On April 17, CUAD, Students for Justice in Palestine, and Jewish Voice for Peace jointly organized an encampment to protest what they described as the university's continued financial investment in corporations that profit from Israeli apartheid, genocide, and military occupation of Palestine. Next day, Shafiq came under fire from Republicans at a House of Representatives committee hearing. Not much for calling police on the peaceful protest, but for not doing enough about the anti-Semitism on campus. Yes, an anti-war protest by students is being widely reported in the mainstream media as anti-Semitic. Watching the House hearing, it is apparent that the media is not alone in this kind of spinning of facts. Bizarrely enough, major TV channels and news sites have been repeatedly claiming that the protesters used violent language against Israel, hurled death threats against the Jewish people, and glorified Hamas. While we strongly condemn all forms of violence, hate speech, and threats, we could not find a single evidence of such slogans allegedly raised by the protesters at the encampment. In fact, not even the most prominent media houses in the US, which pride themselves in authentic and fact-based journalism, have been able to come up with even a hair-thin evidence to back their claim. Amidst all of this fog of fake news, the mainstream media forgot to highlight Representative Ilhan Umar's tough questions during the hearing, exposing a dangerous smokescreen. The deliberate conflation of the criticism of Israeli government with anti-Semitism. As said earlier, we must absolutely condemn anti-Semitism and all forms of hate speech. However, it is intellectually dishonest and deeply harmful to label any criticism of Israel's violence against unarmed Palestinians as anti Semitic. This tactic silences legitimate dissent and undermines the very fight against actual anti Semitism. Anti Semitism is a serious thing, an ugly blot on the face of humanity. Let's not make a joke out of it like this. Coming back to the hearing. During her testimony, Shafiq confirmed the university had authorized police to clear an encampment of dozens of tents set up by protesters. She also admitted having hired the services of a private investigating firm consisting mainly of former police officials to investigate the participants of the encampment. This came in response to yet another question by the unhinged representative Ilhan Umar. In what appears to be the reaction to Umar's difficult questions, three students, including Isra Hirsi, who is Ilhan Umar's daughter and a student at Barnard College, received suspension notices for participating in the encampment. In a remarkable turn of events, though, pro-Palestinian campus protests have escalated across the United States. More than 130 public interest honorees of Columbia Law School have signed a strongly worded open letter to President Shafiq protesting against the expulsions and arrests. The honorees have withdrawn their consent to display their names, images, and work on Columbia websites, promotional materials, or even donor appeals, and have declined to participate in events hosted by Columbia Law School and Columbia University until their demands are met, which are financial divestment, academic boycott, stopping displacement, no policing on campus, ending Columbia's complicity and silence, reinstatation of suspended students, stop penalizing actions against encampment, and launch an investigation and accountability process for the ex-IDF students that attacked fellow students with chemical spray. The fact that got little space in mainstream media. Hundreds of students in the new school have organized protests in solidarity with the Columbia encampment. The staff and faculty of Princeton University has issued a statement of solidarity with Gaza Solidarity Encampment at Columbia. Multiple people have been arrested at New York University for solidarity protests. More than 40 students have been issued summons for setting up an encampment on Yale University's campus in support of the Palestinian cause. The Los Angeles Police Department has arrested more than 90 people on Wednesday night during a pro-Palestinian protest at the University of South Carolina. At the University of Texas on Wednesday, the police and state troopers appeared in riot gear on horseback and made dozens of arrests and forced hundreds of students off the school's main lawn. The protest continues against these arrests. Dozens of students at George Washington University set up a tent encampment on the school's university yard on this last Thursday, which grew steadily through the day, with the demonstrators waving Palestinian flags, beating drums, and chanting slogans. Later, Georgetown University students and New York University students and professors marched to the George Washington campus to join up with the protesters there. Pro-Palestinian encampments have also been established at the University of Michigan, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, California State Polytechnic University, Harvard University, Emerson College, New York University, Emory University, Northwestern University, Fashion Institute of Technology, and many more. All of these protest events have resulted into hundreds of arrests of students and professors too. While the mainstream media is blacking out the voice of the protesters, they are using social media to tell the story of suppression of dissent on the US campuses. Multiple videos and reports on different social networking sites show people being arrested, forcefully nabbed, officers holding down a restrained person being tased, an officer arresting the chair of the Emory University's philosophy department. A report in the student run newspaper Emeryville suggests that officers deployed gas into the crowd. A local independent media outlet, the Atlanta Community Press Collective, also reported the use of tear gas on the crowds, in addition to stun guns and rubber bullets being deployed against the protesters. Disturbingly enough, some students are reporting that the students of color were significantly targeted throughout the process, arrested, tased, tear gassed. History has a cruel way of repeating itself, doesn't it? Decades ago, the hallowed halls of Columbia University echoed with the chants of impassioned students rallying against war. Fast forward to today in 2024, and the echoes of dissent ring loud once again. The question that should bother us is, what has really changed? By standing up for peace and Palestinians' right to life and dignity, the Columbia students are committing no crime. They are merely exercising their right to express dissent and their freedom to protest. Freedom, the linchpin of democracy and a key feature of American Constitution. Student encampment at Columbia University continues as this is being recorded. Faculty members came out in their academic regalia and making a human chain around the protesters to protect them against the imminent police action. A grand and heartening gesture of solidarity with the pro-peace, anti-war protesters. Eventually, over a dozen professors have been arrested by NYPD. Students and their professors are facing the consequence of standing up for the right thing, being punished for their humanity. Universities must jealously guard free speech rather than becoming agents of oppression by scuttling dissent like this. This is a developing story. We shall keep you informed with updates. For now, thank you for joining me tonight. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay informed, and never stop fighting for what's right.